Hello and welcome to the Winbrook Pride Arts and Entertainment Show. My guest today is Ron Cavanaugh and Troy Johnson. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, Ron, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Ron Cavanaugh, president of MosaicBooks.com. Mosaic Books is an online marketing company, and we market mainly self-published, small publishers, and a few large publishers. When they come out with new books, they're looking for different avenues and different markets and people that they can reach. And oftentimes they come directly to us to kind of help do promotion and marketing for their new books.
Okay, Troy.
Well, I'm the president and founder of the African American Literature Book Club, AALBC.com, and it's the largest and one of the oldest websites dedicated to promoting books by and about Black folks. We publish articles, book reviews, celebrity interviews, we sell books, and we sell advertising to advertisers who are also interested in reaching readers of African American literature. So that's the main thing that we do.
Okay, both of you gentlemen have functions that you have. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's so interesting because when I started MosaicBooks.com, it was such a kind of new environment back in 1996. And since then, every year or every couple of years, there's been some kind of major shift or new direction you have to go in. And right now, for the past year or so, we've really been trying to incorporate more social media using Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all these different tools that kind of allow people to interact with you more on a one-on-one basis. So trying to put all of these different tools together and then present them back to buyers and book lovers and booksellers and publishers. Publishers oftentimes, as Troy knows, lag behind everyone else. Like the bigger the company, the slower they are to respond to different changes. So one of the big challenges right now is just to convince publishers, and some smaller publishers also, that social media, using YouTube, using Twitter, using Facebook is so important to your marketing strategy. So that's what we're really, really focused on right now.
Okay, excellent. Troy?
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, perhaps my single biggest challenge is staying on top of technology. And as Ron mentioned, these Web 2.0 utilities and tools and has changed the landscape of the World Wide Web. We have a website like Facebook that Ron just mentioned that purports to have over 400 million registered users globally. That's more people in the population of this country. So I mean, that's astonishing. And so what we're trying to do, what we do is utilize these tools and try to figure out how to use these tools to benefit our businesses. And one of the tools that we use a great deal is Facebook. We are able to, with Facebook and some of the tools that it provides, reach people that we wouldn't have been able to reach ordinarily, but we're also able to reach them immediately. Yeah. So, when I used to publish a book review, for example, I would make people aware of the book review by sending out a newsletter, and people would read the newsletter and hopefully click the link.
Once a month.
And my newsletter only went out once a month.
Right.
Other than that, there might be an organic search where people are looking for that specific review or the author, but it took time for the search engines to index these pages, and hopefully someone would do the query and find the page. But today, whenever I publish new content, I put that up on Facebook, linking back to my site saying, here's some content, I put it up on Facebook, I put it up on YouTube. So immediately those pages are viewed. And see, these are viewers that I wouldn't have been able to receive so quickly previously. Yeah. And there's also, integrating some of the ability to share content. So all of the ALBC pages, for example, give you the ability to tweet the page, share it with Facebook, or any number of these other platforms like Dig
Stumble Upon. And what's so interesting about Facebook and Twitter also is how they've expanded our audiences. I started MosaicBooks.com in '96. And we're just kind of plodding along, building subscribers. We also have a newsletter that we send out weekly. So we're building, and we have about maybe 15,000 people names now. But then all of a sudden, Facebook and Twitter come, and in the course of like a year or two, we've my audience has increased by about 50%. When you consider it took 14 years to get to one spot, and then in 2 years, we've almost increased 50%. Just people can subscribe to us on Facebook now. They can subscribe to my tweets. Similar to what Troy does, we send out all this information directly to people. We no longer have to wait for a schedule, so once a month or once a week. The minute if Darryl Jenkins has a book and he wants to promote it, we can do it. But the minute you send me the cover, I can send it out to the world.
Right.
So and trying to keep track of that or keep up with that has just been like a major challenge now, because so many people are kind of coming into this space, and even though we're leaders, we're still having to carve out through all of these different people now that, hey, we're the leader. We have the audience and the following and the expertise. So just to push to all these different audiences is really, I love it, but it is definitely a challenge. I love it because it's just, it's growing so fast and it's so new and it's just so interesting, Yeah,
and in addition to that, there are companies like Bitly, for example. I use a customized version of Bitly. It's called a URL shortener. And essentially, you could take these long, unwieldy URLs and shorten them to something that's easy to remember. But in addition to that, you can track where people are clicking these links on. So, for example, if I publish a newsletter, I'll put a link to it. If I publish a book review, I'll put it on my homepage. I'll put it on Facebook, Twitter, my discussion board, my blog. And over time, I can see where people are clicking from. Is it something that's been retweeted? Is it something that someone clicked on Facebook? Is it something that someone clicked on my newsletter? So not only can I see which platforms are working better, I can also see which type of content my visitors, people who are coming to the site are finding more interesting. So I can tailor my content based upon the things that people find most interesting based upon clicks. So there's a volume of data that is very helpful in not only helping me understand what people find interesting, but I use that information to supplement the content.
And the same thing can be done with YouTube now. So many people are creating their own book trailers or just their own videos in general. Right. And YouTube offers all that statistical information. So you can clearly see if you post a video on mosaicbooks.com or on ALBC, how effective it is and how much larger your audience can be. Again, up till maybe 2 years ago, you advertised your book and you really weren't sure about the statistics. You really weren't sure exactly how many people were seeing your book, how many people were really purchasing the book. But now we can offer all these statistical information, and it's just made the consumer that's a much more educated consumer, which is in the end that's like a perfect kind of partnership.
Yeah, I think that YouTube, the statistics that YouTube provide on videos has actually helped me sell my services, because often you'll see a publisher or an author create a really terrific video, but then you look at the viewing statistics on YouTube and you see maybe 20 people have clicked the link or viewed it in the past 2 months, all of them coming from their site. And you say to yourself, wow, they put all this money, time, resource into creating this really nice video, but no one's watching it. So, I'll tell someone, we have a service where you can have your video run embedded on virtually every ALBC.com page. And typically people who set those up will see hundreds of views come in quite rapidly. And so that demonstrates quite clearly why it's important to promote your own work through our various platforms. When we get a video, the videos are embedded on our sites, and we also take advantage of the social media to put them out on Twitter and Facebook. So for example, so the ads are on the website and people will see them, but we also get that immediate kick from posting on Facebook and Twitter. And I assume because we're recognized names in the industry, you know, people come to trust what we promote and what we bring attention to on our various platforms.
Excellent. Yeah, because you guys are also not just locally, but you hit across the globe, just about.
And international. Once you get on the web, you know, the whole world is yours. And you know, a lot of people don't get that. You know, because even though you know it's 2010, we deal with like a lot of young authors who tweet and text and do everything all the time, but they don't realize the reach of the internet. This is sure it's an online bookstore, but it's not like the bookstore, you know, in Brooklyn or in the Bronx or Harlem. This is a bookstore that can be anywhere in the world. I oftentimes get contacted by people in Europe, you know, and they ask a question like, well, will my book do well in America? If you write a good book, it's going to do, you know, except for translation, if you've written it in Italian, you know, but if you write a good book, it's going to sell well anywhere. And for that kind of investment, you know, it's almost like a no-brainer. Because it takes a lot of money. If you're self-published or if you're a small publisher, it takes a lot of money to publish a book. So oftentimes people will contact me, I have a garage full of books, I don't know what to do next. You know, by then you would hope that the person gave it a little bit more thought, because by then it's really a struggle, because now you got to ramp up your whole marketing, promotion. But you know, ideally, you don't even have to print like a garage full of books anymore. You can print just a box and print on demand as the books are needed. And when we can even feature books like that on our website now, where the book is not printed at all until somebody orders it. You know, and even that is just a whole new way of thinking about what a bookstore is and how you can market. So you have your one book, Darryl Jenkins' Winbrook Pride autobiography. You have no copies, but you can sell that book, because we can tweet about it. You can shoot a YouTube video, Facebook. Again, Troy mentioned Bitly and Stumble Upon. There's just so many avenues now for everyone to kind of take advantage of. That it's just no reason not to kind of be focused in this social media arena.
Do you think a lot of people are taking advantage of it or misusing this social media, Troy, nowadays?
Well, you know, anything online will be misused. I mean, you know, it's when I look at my email as an example, I would say 90% of the email I get is junk. And that's not the stuff that actually makes it to my junk folder. The stuff that actually makes it to my inbox, most of it is junk. And you know, because of that, it makes it hard to actually receive emails and read them in a timely fashion, because there's so much to wade through. Facebook, for example, it's almost easy to contact me via Facebook, because I will see that. I get a text to my phone that I got a Facebook message, and I get there's far less noise on Facebook. And I'm only going to give I can control who's sending me messages on Facebook. So yeah, it will be abused. Anything that's online, there will be some person, company, entity who is going to try to take advantage of it for monetary gain. That's just the nature of humanity, I guess. You know, one of the things that makes my job difficult as the webmaster of ALBC.com is preventing people from spamming my discussion boards, for example. You know, if you leave something open, which is the easiest thing to do and the best thing to do, but if you leave something open, people will abuse it. People will post commercials and post all kinds of things that have nothing to do with our discussion. So if you put up, if you force people to register now, there are spam bots that come in, set up a dummy registration, fill out all the fields, and then start spamming you again. One bot actually had to take down because I just could not prevent people from spamming. So I upgraded the software. Now we can use a Facebook login.
Yeah.
So in my discussion board, if you have a Facebook account, you can come in and log in and start contributing, posting to the boards, and I don't have to worry about validating who you are because Facebook has done that. And we're seeing a lot of that also.
Yeah.
On my website now, when I publish a book review, there's people can comment on those book reviews, but they can comment using their Twitter ID, their Facebook ID, their Gmail ID. I don't have to keep track of who they are.
Yeah. They
They can log in. You don't have to worry about trying to read some crazy code, you know, the CAPTCHA code.
Yeah.
It's actually those tools are helping to make the internet actually a better place in a lot of ways.
more accessible place also, because like I said earlier, like 400 million people, there has to be a low threshold of entry to get 400 million people to participate. But the great thing about Facebook is all 400 million people must register to use it. So it's not, at least keep my fingers crossed, you know, there's no kind of environment of spamming, excuse me, on Facebook yet, you know, to any kind of large degree. So that kind of helps keep those communities kind of clean and just, you know,
But
whole.
that actually go back to your point. One thing that we have to be aware of, and you know, I don't know what's going to happen ultimately, but when you look at companies like Facebook and you look at the volume of information they have about those 400 million people, you know, information that we freely contribute.
Right.
Facebook knows who our friends are,
Right.
what schools we've
Right.
gone to, where we've worked,
Yes.
what we're talking about, what we
Yeah.
like, you know, all this stuff, and surely they will use it in ways
Sell
that
it.
we perhaps we hadn't considered.
Right.
You know, even with Google, if you sign up with their toolbar, they got a tremendous amount of information about you. They know where you go, what sites you visit. They claim they don't know the individuals, but they have the data. You know, not only that, they're
And
copying the internet
If they
on a
have
regular
your IP
basis.
address, they can basically track you to your computer.
Right.
So,
So
Right.
they know where you're going. They know what you're doing.
Yeah.
What are these companies going to do with this information? How is it going to be used? Is it always going to be used to benefit us?
Well, you know, it's funny because the reason why I brought that up, I seen it on the news and Chuck Schumer was talking about it. But the other thing is that it could be used in law enforcement. A lot of times people committing crimes, you know, there's cyber crimes too.
Yeah,
So you got to remember with the cyber crimes, and technology, the police have to stay a step ahead. And in order for them to do that, they have to have all these companies cooperate with them because a lot of times they won't. They find ways to use it for themselves. Right?
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure, and I'm suggesting that I don't feel comfortable trusting anyone with all of that information. I mean, the only thing that you could do to avoid is to just opt out of all of this stuff.
Right.
And people are actually doing that. You know, I tell people all the time, everybody shouldn't be on Facebook. There are some people who have perhaps done things. There are a lot of classic stories of people who post nude pictures of their girlfriend because they're pissed off at her. And you can take it down or untag yourself, but once it's there, and it's never going. It's never going away. You know, you can't get rid of this stuff once it's out there. And so companies are using these social media to look for things about prospective or even current employees. So in a lot of ways, you can't be free online. One should be able to do whatever they want to in their social media.
True.
But you shouldn't have to worry about one big brother at your corporate gig looking over and making sure what you do doesn't impose upon in your free time doesn't make the company look bad potentially, or you don't want to worry about some law enforcement official having access to your data and using it for ways that or using it for reasons that have nothing to do with law enforcement.
Right.
You know, if people have access to data, there will be opportunity for it to be abused, and history tells us things like this will be abused.
I mean, if you think about it, even now, before social media became kind of integrated into our lives, you know, if you go to a website that serves Google AdWords, which is their kind of advertising program, they will serve you ads based on your interests. Right now, it's so interesting that when I'm surfing, me personally, Ron Cavanaugh, when I'm surfing around the net, an ad for Timbuktu, not to give them a promotion, Timbuktu bags pops up on almost every website that I go to that serves Google AdWords. And what they know is that I went to Timbuktu's website. So somehow, through a cookie on my computer that they put there, which is kind of like a little tracking code, they know if they're serving an ad, I was looking at a bag, so they're going to serve an ad that I'm going to see for a bag. So I see a 300 by 250, a square, I see the horizontal, I see the banner, almost every site that I go to that serves Google Ads. And the same thing with Amazon.
Or anything else. I mean, I get cookies all the time. It drives me crazy. I try and get them off my computer, and they, you know, by the end of the night, you got 30, 40 cookies on there if you're on there for a long time.
Yeah, these companies are so bright, and it's really astonishing the kind of things that they're doing. You know, going back to my typical content of a book review, I can post a book review about there'll be some subject matter in the book review. And as soon as I post it, the next ad that comes up on a brand new page is relevant to the content of that page. And as Ron suggested, not only are they tying ads to the page contents, they're tying ads to your surfing habits. It's really remarkable what they're doing.
But you know, in a way, it kind of benefits us also, because we serve Google Ads. So if a person visits our website, we have a book. If they buy one of those other books, you know, we also get, you know, it works like on a percentage basis. So you know, it's kind of like at this point where it's like good and evil kind of working together, and we really can't make any clear choices about it. Not to say that serving ads is a bad thing, you know, encouraging people to purchase items is a bad thing, but we're benefiting from it to a certain extent, you know, and we kind of have to like come to that conclusion.
Well, that's the business model, right? I mean, these ads are subsidized, pay for what we do. I mean, so, you know, every book on AOBC.com is not a paid ad. There are some books that I'm excited about or that I've learned about through a very favorable review that I will go out and promote, even if the author or publisher is not interested in promoting it. So, and I'm able to do that because Google, you know, the ads, my leftover inventory of ads goes to Google, and Google pays a pretty penny for that inventory. So ultimately, what I would like to be able to do is provide everything for free and just work, you know, pay for everything through ads, ad sales. But so far, it's not quite there yet. But you know, it's very, very possible. So yeah, just like in the old traditional model of selling newspaper ads, we're selling ads online. But the benefit of these ads online are that they're highly targeted, as Ron suggested, and their metrics. You know, for example, if you buy an ad on AOBC.com, depending on the type of ad you buy, I can tell you how many times the ad was viewed, how many times it was clicked. And if you give me the ability to put code on your website, I can tell you how many times someone transacted. So there's a lot of information that, you know, some of the clients that I work with, for example, we experiment with different types of ads. Long horizontal ads, skyscraper, vertical ads, square ads, video ads, book covers, and we look at what's doing best, and we look at what's doing best and focus on those types of ads. You know, what ads work better, where, colors, the whole nine. So there's a lot of opportunity because of this technology and because of the data that we have. We can the information that we have allows us to do much better with reaching our audience.
And what's so interesting, Troy and I, even though we have separate companies, we're still basically like small one person operations, but we operate as big as any other company on the internet because of all this social media now, because of the metrics that we can provide to customers. And we can clearly say, like, sure, your book is on Amazon, but who's seeing your book on Amazon? You know, you really need to get your book in the face of your readers. And until you do that, your book is going to be on Amazon and it's going to sell 2 copies on Amazon. You know, so when somebody comes to Mosaic Books or ALBC, we're telling them, yeah, we'll tweet to 1,000 people, and you know, we'll list the book on Facebook to, you know, an additional 1,000 or so people.
Right.
And I think that it's starting, like, you know, people are really starting to realize that, you know, these different kind of social media, for lack of a better word, because some of them aren't really that social. I don't know about Twitter as far as, you know, how social it is.
Right.
But all these different tools are just integral to you promoting your book and your book doing well. And if you don't take them seriously, you really can't sell a book. Because, I mean, I love bookstores, don't get me wrong. I don't think there's anything better than a table in a bookstore that has like 30 books that you've never seen before, and you walk in the front door and there they are. There's nothing like that. There's no serendipity on the internet yet that can replace a table full of books, like when you walk into McNally Jackson or Brownstone Books and there's somebody there to hand sell a book to you.
Right.
But the audience is so large on the internet that you have to take it seriously first and foremost. And you know, bookstores are now secondary, but important.
Yeah, I mean, you know, one of the biggest comments that I got from my website when I first started it,
Which was when?
I first started working on the site in 1997, and I launched it officially on its own domain in March of 1998. But immediately people were emailing me and saying, "Oh, this is so great. There are no independent bookstores. There are no bookstores in my community. If it wasn't for this site, I would not have learned about this book, that author." And to me, you know, these were people who were just chomping at the bit, an untapped market of people who desired this type of content but had no way of discovering it. They just simply did not live anywhere they can buy this material. Yeah. And so that, you know, so again, independent bookstores, all bookstores are terrific, but everyone doesn't, you know, they're not like Walmarts where 85% of the country lives 25 miles from one. You know, most people don't, you know. How many bookstores are there in the Bronx, for example? You know, there's a big Barnes & Noble in Co-op City.
And there's one little bookstore in the Bronx. There's one independent bookstore to serve 1.3 million people.
Wow.
You know, when you think about that. But how many people have personal computers in their home now?
That's true.
So your bookstore is right, you know.
Yeah, we didn't have
on
that
top of
before.
your desk. Exactly.
And also, too, I think the library, I did a story with the library, and the library also is having trouble getting kids reading books.
Yeah.
You know, we put together an essay for Juneteenth, and we having trouble getting kids to write essays. So, you know, we have to generate a lot more interest, and learning has to be fun.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I do, I also run a nonprofit called the Literary Freedom Project, and we're really trying to give professional development to educators.
Right. What took you so long to talk about it?
I got to bring me back for another show.
Yeah, we got to bring you back. All right, look, I'm sorry our time has run out. Give your information one more time. Troy Johnson.
Troy Johnson, president and founder of the African American Literature Book Club, AALBC.com.
Okay. Ron Kavanaugh.
I'm Ron Kavanaugh, president of MosaicBooks.com.
All right, and the literary?
The Literary Freedom Project is a nonprofit. We do professional development for teachers, trying to get them to know how to assign reading assignments in the classroom, just so we can kind of increase literacy and a love of literature and culture.
All right, see, that's another show, Ron.
There you go.
All right, look, I want to thank both of you gentlemen for being a part of Winbrook Pride.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
And thank you once again. All right, I hope that you will continue to watch Winbrook.